Hello and welcome to In No Particular Order. I'm Matt, and today I'm joined by Michael, Tyson, and Nick.
Yo,
Sup? What up?
Michael, that was a lot louder, higher pitched than I was expecting.
This is just how I talk now.
Oh, buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a great show. Michael, don't talk anymore. You're banned from
Okay.
talking. Um,
You're banned from talking.
yeah, fun has been
you're just a
canceled.
warm body now.
Yep, exactly. So today we are discussing how we stay motivated and creative. I have a few questions lined up, but we're going to be touching upon a couple of areas, I guess, personal lives, just on our own projects, but also in terms of SkyPyre and its projects, so working as a team and whatnot. One quick question right here is how powerful is motivation in the creative world? So this is kind of a broad question before we dive deep into the personal nitty gritty of it. So anyone want to tackle that question? How powerful is motivation in the creative world?
Oh man, motivation is just like such an aggregation. That is a Sum 41 reference that I think I might have messed up because I don't remember the other lyric. Uh, Speaking from personal experience, if it weren't for my mediocre yet still present motivation, the Global Game Jam doc would probably never have been finished. Because my God, that was just such a daunting task to just kind of dive into. So um, once I got in there and like I really started like understanding what I wanted to do with it, the motivation was a lot less necessary, I guess, because I guess I had like a more distinct vision for what I wanted and a bit more. Um, I don't want to say care, but that's the only word I can think of. Um, so motivation for me is hard to come by sometimes, but absolutely necessary. And usually the best motivation for me is time crunch, which is why like 90% of the time the things that I finish are like just before they're due or maybe a bit late, which has bitten me in the ass more times than I can count, and yet I do it over and over and over again. So I'll definitely say that motivation for me is very, very critical to my creative process because without it, nothing would get done ever.
Yeah,
I think it
fair enough.
depends on where you're coming from when you talk about motivation, because motivation can be looked at in a couple ways. I think, sorry, that one way to think about motivation is, do you need something to push you toward completing that thing? So in the form of creativity, do you need something pushing you? And to that end, I would probably say that you probably don't need it as much as you would in other industries. I think in the creative field, whether it's personal or a business thing, more so for the personal, you have the opportunity to do something just because you like it, which some would argue doesn't involve motivation at all. Your motivation to do it is you want to do it, which is really a motivation.
Hmm.
But I think that there's room, whereas in in business or in something where you're um, trying to develop a product or something where you're trying to achieve a goal, a very specific goal, you have a motivation to do that. If you're trying to get fit, your motivation is to get fit for a reason. You know, Usually there's a reason. Is you want to improve your health, you want to live longer, you want to be able to do XYZ thing that you can't do in a business. You want to try to sell something, etc. You want to try to get on a market, make a network, something. So there's motivation externally, whereas creativity has this beautiful capacity to just be entirely self-motivated.
Sometimes I use a lack of motivation can mean that the creative direction that I'm taking isn't the right one. So sometimes when I feel like low motivation for a project that I'm working on, it means that I'm not going in a direction that's exciting for me. And so in the past, I've had times where like I reach low motivation on something, and for me that meant just like completely rethinking how I was approaching it, which can sometimes lead to more work. which isn't the best sometimes. So it's kind of like a trade-off. Sometimes I have to just work through the low motivation or rethink it into a way that makes me more motivated to complete it. Does that ever
I
happen
think
to you
that
guys?
segues pretty well into the next question, if I remember them right.
Which is, how do you stay motivated? You as a person, personally.
I think something that helps with me a lot is the fact that I don't do creative work as a job. My job is, for me,
As a day job.
as a day job, yes. So I work in IT. I work in like a customer support kind of area for the employees. And for me, that doesn't involve a whole lot of creative thinking most of the time, or like much brain power at all, really. Um, so that's a big benefit for me, is that I can go home and I'm not creatively drained, right? I don't know how you guys are, like, because I know Nick, you do graphic design all the time, even if it's for corporate work. But I assume you still have to spend some creative energy. So like for me, I go home and I'm fueled and I'm feeling creative and feeling friggin' fantastic. And usually that's kind of one of my blessings in disguise, I guess, is that my job allows me to save my creative energy on other things in my life. So I guess that's how I stay motivated, is I work in a job that does not drain me creatively, because my motivation is very limited.
For me, it's a bit different. I'm going to throw this in here early just to see how it shakes up the mix. I don't really believe in motivation. Ooh, look at me. I'm edgy. No. For me, I heard something a few years ago, and it's resonated with me ever since. And it's that motivation is temporary discipline.
That's an interesting way to put it.
A way that I approach motivation is that you shouldn't strive to achieve motivation. You should strive to develop discipline, because motivation is fleeting, right? Once it wears off and you're no longer enamored with the thing you're working on, you stand to, lose interest in it, drop it, and not complete it, not reach that goal you're attempting to reach. So for me, I view motivation as an opportunity to boost my development of discipline. So it's kind of like it's a muscle, right? You can never stop working your discipline, right? Because as soon as you let go of that connection and you let go of your ability to use that muscle, all of a sudden you find yourself sitting on the couch watching Netflix, or in my case, depending on the stretch of time, consuming more YouTube content than I care to admit. So for me, I don't strive to figure out what motivates me, because that requires me to hunt down something external to make me achieve my goals. I try to think about it like, why don't I build that discipline now, no matter how much it sucks, like a muscle. When you're working out, your muscles hurt, right? And then they don't after a while, but you can lift more now, or you're more flexible depending on the muscle you're working on. So being able to develop that discipline alleviates the chase of finding motivation. For me, that's how I approach it. I want to throw that spanner in the mix, see how other people's perceptions may change.
I've never heard about looking at motivation that way. I think that's a very interesting and kind of accurate way to look at it. That it's fleeting and it's temporary. What was the word again?
Motivation is temporary discipline.
Temporary discipline. Yeah, that's a very interesting way to put it. I think for me, I do believe in motivation. Oh, Civil War. I do believe in it, but I do like that point, Nick. I think that's a very interesting way to think about it. I think for me, it kind of touches upon what Tyson was saying, is that at least my last job, I would work on several projects in it every day, and it would be like, from graphic design to motion graphics to video editing. So basically, most of the stuff that I want to do outside of my day job is related in some way to that. And after having done that day in, day out for, projects that I don't necessarily want to work on because they're client projects, it does drain. And the way for me that I've found, at least on SkyPyre's side, for me to continue working on these related things, these similar things, is that I have the goal to create a better presence online for SkyPyre, or an audience or a community and all that stuff. So basically these similar tasks are different in that they are helping me achieve a certain goal. It's not just, I've made this graphic and now it's gone forever. I never have to deal with it again. It's more, this graphic is a part of a whole, a part of a plan that I'm working on. That's at least on SkyPyre's side. As for my own personal work, I haven't done much, which is sad to say, but I haven't done much outside of my day job in SkyPyre, just because by the time I have all that stuff done, I've lost.
Not much time left.
There's not much time left, but I've also lost my that discipline, that momentary discipline. It's, I've used up my juice, my creative juices for the day. So unfortunately, my own personal work has had to take a back seat, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can say that same sentiment to all of my
Sediment.
sediment.
You can
Oh, that
say
same,
that same loosened rock from the bottom of the river.
You can say that same sentiment to all of the albums and EPs that I wanted to make in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it makes it hard.
Mm-hmm. But I think there is still room sometimes, and I think it's important sometimes to do little personal things here and there. I think you've been doing Inktober, right, Matt?
See, it's funny you say that. I did the first 2 days. We're now October 7th. I did
Oh, no.
October 1st and 2nd. I have yet to do the others just because of exactly what I said. Lack of time, and just based on this conversation, lack of motivation.
Yeah.
See, that's where Nick's brutalist and uncomfortable agenda comes in, where he says, you need to throw motivation out the window and get disciplined, boy.
Yeah, that's why you have a calendar that is a work of art that Da Vinci would be astounded with.
I like to think of it more as a Jackson Pollock.
I think one of this, speaking from relevant recent experience, something that motivates me is success, because now I'm working on programming stuff, and recently I hit a very, very big, very, very difficult wall with our Xbox version of Blobs, which was save data. And I fought with that beast for weeks. And then I finally, thanks to the glorious people at the Unity forums, I finally figured out a way to do it. And my God, I've never been more happy in like the last 2 years as when the code finally worked. And it actually motivated me to write more code and get more stuff done, because it's like, yes, this big obstacle is finally out of the way. I can do more stuff. Let's do that stuff now while I have the energy to keep the ball rolling.
You're riding the endorphin wave.
Yeah, riding the high of fixing a bug. It's a real problem for programmers.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to stay motivated, is if you're able to get the motivation to do a thing and then you get success from that, then I guess you get the ball rolling for a certain amount of time. And related to this is the other question of how do you maintain creativity, which I guess it kind of works with the what we just said, riding the high of success. that's part of it. I think maintaining creativity also is just following, just talking with other creative people, talking with, I guess in this case, SkyPyre. Everyone at SkyPyre is creative, and we talk about other stuff, but also on social media or just looking at art books and artists that you really like, just following them and checking out different art and discovering new art, I think helps maintain creativity, because then your art and your creations don't become stale. It doesn't feel like you're constantly doing the same thing, because you've come up with new ideas based on what you've seen recently, or oh, that cool animation was interesting. I wonder how they did that, and you might try new techniques, which helps with creativity because you're trying new things. It's not just I'm going to draw the same character the same way for the next 3 hours, over and over and over and over and over. It changes. So I think that's a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely fall in line with that. I mean, I had a little note here saying to be a consumer of your medium, right? So regardless of what it is, if you're a writer, an animator, a game developer, a programmer, a musician, an artist, a dancer, a stunt driver, who cares? Your medium is your medium. Your expression of yourself is your expression, and the way you choose to express it is your medium. So consume that medium. I can speak for me saying that there was a very long period of time I kept making the joke, which is a semi-funny joke, but also not funny at the same time, where the only game I played for about 9 to 11 months was Blobs. Was the game we were working on, because I never made time to go play games. And I would say that's probably my medium of choice for consuming content is games. So I definitely hit a creative wall where I lost a lot of interest in game development and lost a lot of interest in starting a personal project on the side, or doing this little thing, or learning more, or trying a new tool, or even pitching interesting ideas to the rest of the team on that very same project. Despite the fact you spend all your time in it, you get fatigued. So it was only once I made the decision to start actively scheduling into my Jackson Pollock calendar time to play games, that I actually started re-consuming the medium that I enjoyed. And that's how I happened upon like Honest Gems, like Titanfall 2 and a few other ones, which reignited my interest and my love of games, and by extension game development. It only took a little bit. Titanfall's not a very long game. It's a very good game, but it's not a very long game. It's like 6 hours or something. And that carried me through another few months. It's like a hit. It's a creative hit.
It's interesting.
But, it's important to remember here, like we're game developers and musicians and a number of other things, but this is any medium. Like I said, like if you're stunt driver and that's seriously what you want to do, and you're trying to come up with an interesting way, maybe you're working on a small indie film, and you're the only stunt person there, stunt coordinator, and you're trying to come up with what you could consider to be an interesting way to approach that problem. So you need to watch a ton of movies and videos on some behind the scenes of stunt driving, and just the stunt driving that they have in the movie, and stuff like that. And by consuming that, you're getting bombarded with content that will end up meshing itself into an original or an interesting idea. I think it's a fallacy a lot of people think of when they're like, well, if you watch too many other movies, your movies will be like theirs. If you play too many games, you'll want to make a game like that. Or if you read too many of the same books, you'll just copy those books. I don't think that's true at all. Or rather, I think that is true, and that if you think anything else is true, you're probably wrong. That's my humble opinion. That in the creative world, art is stealing.
Everything is a remix.
Yeah, it's a creative and tasteful, theft of somebody else's, one of somebody's 10 ideas they employed in one of their particular pieces, and you employ that one piece along with 10 other pieces from 10 other projects and put it together, and next thing you know, it's like I remember hearing somebody describe it. I don't remember the game, but they described a particular shooter game as a combination of Borderlands, BioShock, and Half-Life 2. and followed up with, and that's not a problem.
Mm.
Because if you're going to, jump in and cherry pick mechanics or ideas or visual representations out of a bunch of different games, pick from the ones you like, the ones you enjoy. And you're going to have more joy when you do that. And by consuming more of it, you have more opportunity to find new and interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyone else on that?
I think you just covered all of my thoughts on that. Just yeah, I
have
always consume the medium that you're most interested in. Like if you're really into sculpting, then watch people sculpt in all different types of ways. Like watch them sculpt in clay, watch them sculpt in Blender and ZBrush, and then do it yourself, that kind of thing. Like, or if you like writing stories, read books, study screenplays, like all that kind of thing. I think, and if you're into making like environments, go outside and view the world. Go on hikes and walk through your city and whatnot. Get as many inputs into your creative process as possible, because I think a lot of creativity isn't, some of it isn't entirely your consciousness. A lot of it is your subconsciousness bringing up memories and little things that you've encountered throughout your life and kind of bringing them together in this magical way.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I had my last couple points. You just touched on one of them really well, which is like look into yourself and your experiences and retrospectively explore how those inform the ideas or the creative outputs you're making, right? So it's a combination of who you are and where you are and what you're looking at and all your experiences and memories. How do those combine? So don't be afraid to look in to find things to make out. If that makes sense. People talk about the edgy artist who does this big piece, and that big piece is, it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's depressing because when they looked in and they truly wanted to find something creative, it was a really hard memory for them to think about. So that's how they expressed that. That's how they got that out. That's what they used to push their creativity. And it could be a number of other things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And my last thing I was going to say was constantly start again. This may or may not work for everybody, but it works for me. The amount of documents I have outlining interesting ideas I've had, like my Google Drive, as an organized person, I don't open that folder unless I'm, going to find something specific, because it is just a fucking nightmare. It's just cluttered with stuff, and they're constantly, game idea X, for example, it'd be game idea X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Mm-hmm.
and every 2 months I'll throw away the first one and rewrite it again.
Yeah.
And the more you hammer those ideas in, you realize where you leave the fluff behind, and when you go back and read them again, you pluck at that stuff that's important, and you suddenly start to form this interesting idea, and it evolves over time. So if you're trying to start a project, or you've started a project, you're trying to get back in and find the creative juices to do that again, maybe just start it again. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Throw the canvas away.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
by doing that, by beginning a project again, you do that repeatedly until you land on a particular path that leads you to either the goal you're intending to achieve, whether that's the success of completing it, the success of getting it noticed, whatever that might be, or it's just your own personal creative fulfillment. But I would say that's probably something that helps me, particularly me. And again, it may or may not work for everybody, but that helps me a lot.
Yeah, I can speak to the same. I have a same as you, Nick. I have a folder on my Google Drive for stories, story ideas, and there's like at least 15 of them in there, and a lot of them are just like simple concepts, but a few of them are a combination of a bunch and derivatives of others, and it's interesting just where I've started, and then the latest ones, it's like, oh yeah, I remember writing this, but then I actually combined it with this, and it's very cool. So yeah, I can speak to that. That makes a lot of sense. We have a question.
Just one really quick thing. I have like 300 recordings on my phone.
Oh man.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
It's a combination of weird sound effects I find in the world. Me whistling, me humming, me playing piano. And whenever I'm like lacking motivation or need like something to just get me going, when I'm working on any kind of music project, I just start scrolling through that and listening to random ones until I find something that's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember. I think it was like 2 years or something ago, and yeah, you were just humming to yourself, and you went, "Ooh, that's good," and pulled out your phone and just repeated it like 3 times at different pitches and stuff. I'm like, "What do you?" Yeah, I do this all the time. Don't worry about it. All right, sure, man. I'll keep it for
somebody else
later. I'll
on our
keep it for
team-
later.
Somebody else in our team that does that a lot and does it very, very well, and we joke about it, kind of a combination of with him and at him, but is David Dunkelman, because that
His
guy,
sketchbook.
his sketchbook is mental diarrhea. Like, it's just if he, well, no, you know that the describe, when people describe verbal diarrhea as just like laying down the entire thing you want to say, just with no hold bar. It's just like everything's just out, right? This is what he does with visual ideas. Like, when he comes up with a visual idea, it's like all of a sudden he's magnetically attracted to his sketchbook, and he
He'll
whips it
draw
out
like
and
he'll
draws
draw the
like
same
60
thing.
iterations of something,
That's
because
true.
that's where his brain's leading. It's like you can seriously watch his thought process happen while he does it.
Yeah.
And that's the same sort of thing as like humming and going, "Oh shit, that's a good idea," and then recording it. It's like getting that idea out and down. That's actually something that I didn't think of. That's a really good idea too. I don't do it because I'm an idiot. But is if you come up with an idea, put it down. The
Yes.
easiest one is take out your phone and write a quick note, even just like a 1-sentence prompt, so you don't lose that synapse in the soup of your brain.
That's
I
I
do
found that
that
doesn't
though.
really work with programming because, well, at
A
least in
little
my
less so,
experience
yeah.
with programming, the idea doesn't come to you until you have bashed your head against a wall significantly enough that your flawed logic finally makes sense.
Either that or you're not a great programmer.
That's entirely possible. I mean, I'm not
kidding.
saying that I'm a good programmer. I'm saying that like David has his sketchbook and Michael has his audio recordings. For me as a programmer, I don't have a moment, like I don't have any like aha moments and then scribble code furiously on a napkin or something. It's kind of, I sit at a computer and I think and I think and I think, and then the Jimmy Neutron moment happens, and I finally have that brain blast, and I can spew code out like a monster.
I think you could probably write down like basic ways that you're going to accomplish certain things. Like if you have an idea during the day, like, oh, I know how I can fix that problem, or I know a clever way to do something, you should still try to write it down.
Yeah, even if you just
Pseudocode
wrote a
indefinitely.
sentence.
Yeah, just like do this, then this, then this.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I just haven't had that moment yet.
We should answer this question in the chat.
Yes.
Yes.
So the question
There's
is,
a question in the chat.
yes, what's the most bizarre place you found inspiration to spark your creativity? The most bizarre place. Oh man, that is a tough question. I think it relates back to what we were saying before, where if you have inspiration or you come up with a new idea, a lot of times it's like a combination of 10 different things subconsciously that you are remembering. So sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint where you got an idea from. Most bizarre place I found inspiration though?
I've got an answer. I just
Okay.
realized. Okay, so not long after Grand Theft Auto 5 released on PC, I came across a video in my Facebook feed of a I don't even remember what the video was exactly, but the audio was some sort of children's nursery rhyme about how the paint is pink.
Okay.
And that just kind of like planted itself into my brain for a little while. And then I don't know how long later it was. It was I don't know, like a week maybe. I'm playing GTA 5 with some friends of mine, and I realized that you can buy pink paint for your guns. So for some reason, the two things clicked, and I immediately started recording the game of me just buying pink paint for all of my guns, which was all of them at that point. And then I edited together a video with that music of just me buying pink paint for all the guns, just as a dumb joke. So I'd say that's definitely the most bizarre connection that my brain has made, where it's just like, hey, you know this like children's nursery rhyme you heard a few days ago about how the paint is pink, and you know how you can get pink paint on your guns? Make it a meme.
Yeah, I think I had one of those too, where I was doing an animation for shits and gigs. No, it was a school project actually. I was using, if you're an animator, you probably know about the Mary rig, which is sort of just a Pixar-esque style female character. It's a free rig for you to download for Maya, I think, or Blender as well, but I don't know about that one. Don't quote me. Either way, you know, you can use it for your projects and stuff. So I was using it for a school project, and I was screwing around with the teeth. Like the teeth of the character, because that is one of the things you do in animation, right? Is you move the jaw up and down depending on when you're doing facial animation to pull the teeth to make the appropriate viseme. Is that the right word? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Right, the viseme, right, which is the shape, the visual shape of the mouth according to the sound of the audio. And I don't know why, but I accidentally had clicked the wrong control. I meant to move it up, and instead I moved it out, like out of the front of her face. So the teeth, but there's a limit, right? So it can only go so far out of the mouth, even though that's totally unrealistic. But it slammed itself in the perfect position where it kind of looked like an Attack on Titan.
Oh, I think I remember this.
I just randomly
I remember this.
I was like, this is gonna be great. I just went and got the Attack on Titan thing. So at first I showed rotating around them. I screen capped rotating around the model, doing this, adjusting this, raising an eyebrow, grab the mouth, open the mouth a little, and then I just hard cut in the teeth popping out, a punch zoom, and it started the Attack on Titan theme. It was like da 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 da, and then I started just flipping the camera around the character. That video is live; it is public, so I'll link it in.
We should put it in the description of this on YouTube.
We'll put in the description, and Tyson, if you have yours as well.
I put mine in the Twitch chat already.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Well, for YouTube, we'll put them in the description as well.
Yeah, and everything. Anyway, but that was definitely the weirdest stupid idea I've had. But I think the weirdest place I found a legitimate idea. What was it? I had it a minute ago, but then Tyson said something funny and I lost it. Oh well, if it comes back to me, I'll mention it. But
all right.
I did have a very weird place I found a legitimate idea.
I've been thinking, and I can't really think of a weird one. I don't know. Just I really don't know. Sometimes something just pops in my head while walking down the street. It doesn't. I don't think I've had a weird one like you guys, especially Tyson's, which.
I think the only reason we both.
I've done worse too.
I think the only reason we remember both of those ideas is because we executed on them.
Yeah.
It might be that, yeah, because you actually have you spent time past. Oh, that's a cool idea. Time. Yeah, you spent a lot of time past the moment of inception.
I remember upsetting Michael because I found a video that said that Fortunate Son fits on any video game ending. So I slapped it on the ending of Halen and then showed it to you guys.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was when you first started working with us.
Yes.
Yeah. I've never forgiven you for that.
It's perfect. I would have preferred that to the bup.
Well, yeah.
Weirdest place I get inspiration, probably weird esoteric Jewish pseudepigrapha.
You said a lot of weird words there.
Weird esoteric Jewish pseudepigrapha.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
See, that's the most bizarre one I can come up with. You guys can look up those words and figure out what I'm talking about.
Okay, sure.
Can you spell it?
David knows. He knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, we'll look it up. Okay, well, that's weird.
there's one other thing if I can interject
Mhm.
that I realized after I remembered the pink gun thing, was 2 years ago. Me and a buddy of mine at work got really into playing Age of Empires 2.
I knew you'd bring this up.
Oh my
And then
god.
I knew it.
I found a meme page on Facebook called Hussar Dude, which was just Age of Empires memes. And one day, I still don't understand how my brain made the connection, but I played a civilization in Age of Empires 2 that has a special unit called the organ gun. And because it looks really low quality, it looks like these people are just pushing around a piano, which is not at all true. That's not what an organ gun is. But, very pixelated art makes it look like that. And of course, me with my dumb brain decided, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I intercut clips of playing a bunch of organ guns to 1,000 Miles by, who was it, Vanessa Carlton, I think?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but yeah.
Vanessa Carlton.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I did that? And then I just did it in like 3 hours, and it's probably my finest creation. So I think my creativity almost always stems from bizarre places. Just because I have trash brain, and memes are my life.
They have a pill for that.
I don't know if it'd work.
I mean, that video was pretty well done. It was pretty entertaining.
I'm also putting it in the Twitch chat right now.
Oh no. Another question was wait 1 second. How do you do either? Oh, how do you stay motivated and maintain creativity when it's a project you're not interested in but otherwise have to do? So I guess an example would be sometimes client work or client projects you really don't want to but you have to, or sometimes personal projects go on for too long and you get burnt out and you don't want to. How do you stay motivated and maintain creativity?
Yeah,
Deadlines.
Sometimes you don't have one.
That's true. That's how I do it though.
Yeah.
At least
I would say
even if it's not a forced deadline by a client, if it's something that I'm working on, it's just like, okay, this has to be done by this day, and that
yeah, and that lends it to what I was going to say, which was it leads to my controversial point. Ooh, edgy. Where I don't believe in motivation and it's all discipline. So what helps me achieve, a project when you're not interested in it is the discipline that it has to be done or that it doesn't. Because depending on the project, it's important to remember that, you can stop working on something if Mary Kondo would have thrown it away because it sparks no joy, you can too. So, it's like, don't be afraid to do that. But on the other end of that, when there's the things, because in this particular case, we're talking about maybe you're doing a school project or it's a project for work, or it's whatever, it's a personal project that you really want to complete, but it's lasted too long. If you have to do it, it has to get done, but you're finding it difficult I'll start with motivation, to motivate yourself to finish it. I think it's really important to have your notes open so you can remember what you're going to say. It's really important to find ways to make what you're doing interesting to you, which is something I definitely do for me at my day job. My day job works as a graphic design and usability designer. So for me, some of the work that I do find interesting, but a lot of it, depending on the day, depending how many times it's had to go somewhere and come back to me, I no longer find it interesting. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you find ways to make it interesting. Like, for example, if you receive a document from a client, and you're like, all right, I need to make this thing. And they're like, yeah, but I really want this and I want this and I want this. And all three of those things go completely contrary to what you think is a good idea. And it's not going to end well if you tried to argue them on it. You try to introduce new ideas. Like you can say, well, what if we did it this way? And you somehow take the challenge to bend their idea to match what you're doing. And then all of a sudden they're on board with the thing you want to do. So now you've bent the thing you don't want to do to make it at least mildly more interesting for you to do. And that goes, I think discipline and the motivation that comes, the creative motivation that comes with maintaining that level of discipline is a logarithmic scale. It goes up, right? So it doesn't take a whole lot. There's logarithmic. Maybe it's the opposite of logarithmic. The point is, it only takes a little bit to get you started,
Right.
and then it's momentum from there. So it doesn't, once you're sort of invested in it, you might find yourself being really interested in a project that if you talked to you 10 days ago would have said, I don't care about this at all. I think that goes a long way.
The Game Jam documentary, like
Precisely.
I said.
And the other one would be
I thought you had more.
something.
No, that was it. That was the end of my sentence.
Okay.
Getting ready for the greatest thing Tyson has ever said.
Nothing.
The other thing I would say for that is something that Matt touched on earlier, which is understanding the bigger picture of what you're working on and what it's for. So if you're stuck in the trenches at your job or in school and you're just working on something, you're not interested in it, and you don't know why you're working on it, particularly at your workplace, maybe more so than school, is try to ask, your supervisor or the project lead or whoever you're supposed to be addressing with it, or yourself, if it's a personal project, right? Truly ask yourself, why are you doing it and what is it for? And sometimes when it comes from an external source, like this is something you're doing for your job, the explanation of where it fits in the bigger structure helps show you what it does. And just knowing that can go quite a distance. And if you're being introspective and you're asking yourself why you're doing it, I think you can find very interesting and compelling reasons deep within why you're doing it. I always like I've heard it referred to as the 5-year-old game. Okay. I read about it in a book called How Not to Give a Fuck.
I like it.
Which is continue to ask yourself why you want something. And I think you can bend that game to this. So continue to ask yourself why you're working on the thing you're working on until you get to the bottom line of it. It's usually ugly. You probably don't like it. You could probably stop a few steps up and still be motivated. Maybe that's actually a better idea. But,
why?
We're not opening that Pandora's box.
Exactly. But do this to your, honestly, seriously, it sounds silly, but try doing it to yourself. Like when you're trying to figure out why you're working on a project that you're no longer interested in, keep asking yourself why. And if you get to the bottom of that chain or near enough to that you can determine I'm working on this for no reason. The reason that I had when, let's say I'm working on this piece of art. Why are you working on this piece of art? Because I want to make it. Why do you want to make it? Because I want to post it online to my portfolio. Why do you want to put it on your portfolio? Because I want it to be, I want to put a new piece up there. Why do you want to put a new piece up there? Because I want to have new pieces on my portfolio. Why do I want to have new pieces on my portfolio? And if at the bottom of all of that is a reason that you're like, on second thought, this actually doesn't forward me toward, this reason isn't forwarding toward a goal I want to achieve, and you realize you no longer care about the deeply rooted reason, drop the project, which goes back to what I was saying before. You don't need to finish it if it serves no reason and it's not mandatory. Obviously in the workplace you can't do that, but I think that in the workplace, just knowing where you sit in a larger structure, depending on the size of your company, especially if you're a creative individual in a large game company or a film studio with hundreds of maybe thousands of employees, hundreds or thousands, not hundreds of thousands, a bit ridiculous. Hundreds or thousands of employees. You may not know why you're animating this guy's butt cheeks, but by knowing where that sits as a piece of comedic entertainment in this scene, which is relevant to this section of the movie, which is relevant to this, and your animation is going to go to this guy who's going to put it in this way, and he's going to put subsurface scattering on those luscious butt cheeks, and they're going to look great. You're like, what, on second thought, I'm on board with this idea, and all of a sudden your motivation and your creative push to do it may change.
Speaking of butt cheeks,
Oh no!
uh,
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
I was watching the documentary for the making of the new Dark Crystal show,
Yep.
and there's a scene where these little creatures called podlings are getting like cleaned, and like this little podling's butt cheek runs across the screen. And in the documentary, they said that they did 6 iterations on those butt cheeks to get them just right.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's little things like that that you don't really think about, but a lot of work is put into, in the creative world. A lot of times, even the littlest details that you would never think about have a lot of thought and time put into it.
There's a
Apparently-
whole team of people at Rockstar that made dynamic horse testicles.
That's right.
in Red Dead 2.
That's right.
Like, no one asked for it, and yet there it is.
Yeah. So my last question here is, how does your environment or the context in which you're working affect your motivation? This was also a question from our Discord, and I think it came up when that member found out that we had the Dunkel base,
Ah, yes.
which for those who don't know is a basement that we've retrofitted into a makeshift office for ourselves. It's where we meet every week as a team. It's where we can go and work collaboratively. I feel like that is like that the whole reason we made it the way it is with multiple computers and whatnot is to get as close as possible to the work environment that we had when we started working with each other, which was in university. In university, what we had was big desks with dual monitors and all the whole shebang, but we were able to work together at these big desks, side by side, facing each other, in person. Big whiteboard. Lots of room for us to talk, to come up with ideas, to write down ideas, to prototype, right there. And then when we graduated from university, then we went into working on Blobs and working on our first big game project outside of school. And we found that productivity and I guess motivation dropped a significant amount because we weren't in each other's presence every day. We weren't working together face to face. So this Dunkel base was made as kind of a way to get that environment back, get that collaboration space back, and it has helped quite a bit actually.
Mm-hmm. In the wise words of High School Musical, we're all in this together.
Exactly. So I think your environment and your context in which you're working helps a lot, because yes, you can do, like, if I'm when I was doing the Blobs main menu, the original concepts, I had to animate the lightning effect when you're hovering over a button or something. I don't need to be in the presence of Tyson and Michael, to work on that. I can just do that on my own. However, something like when we're prototyping a new mechanic in Blobs, like the dash or something, it might be good to have 2 or 3 people in there to give input on the timing doesn't feel so good, or let's just test it out, see how it feels or how it looks, and then you can get that instant feedback right away and iterate on it right away, and just boom, 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 and then in no time you come up with something good, as opposed to working on it at home and you're just like, I think this is fine. I'll find out in a couple of days what the guys think.
Mm-hmm.
There's, and also to that, it's like, well, I won't be meeting them for another couple of days, so I won't have feedback for another couple of days. So I'll just work on it in a couple of days. I won't work on it now. So that's how I've seen context and environment affect our productivity and creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, Tyson.
I was going to say the thing that environmentally, at least for SkyPyre, helps with my productivity is our weekly meetings, We all meet up. We discuss, what needs to be worked on, what we have worked on. Which I think, for me, that's the most important thing: is the round table after every week, because the thing that saddens me the most is being a ULA for a week.
And Tyson, what does ULA stand for the uninitiated?
ULA stands for useless layabout,
Mm-hmm.
which means you got nothing done this week, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
It is
On the opposite,
100% a badge of shame.
absolutely. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Employee of the Moth, which is Employee of the Week, and
Do not
that's
describe
don't
that
question
timing
it.
system.
yeah. Don't. That's a separate discussion. That's next month's podcast. What is a moth?
It's not a fuzzy insect.
It's not.
What is a moth, and how to add 25 hours or an extra hour to Wednesday?
Yes, that's it. So yeah, we have like an Employee of the Week where every week we vote on who we think was the most productive member of SkyPyre that week, and then we crudely draw them on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Which, if you're on our Discord, you usually see it every week after our meetings. We usually post who the employee
Join
of
our
the month was.
join our Discord.
Yes, if you
That's-
haven't.
That's basically the only reason I do anything for you guys.
Yeah,
Just get myself drawn by Nick.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
I thoroughly enjoyed seeing David.
That's where these lovely profile pictures came from.
Well, originally, yes.
Actually, Tyson, that very same picture that is highlighting when you speak, that beautiful pink baby, that was your first Employee of the Moth.
That's true.
That was my first Employee of the Moth.
And inspire the rest of them.
Yes.
My personal favorite was David with his hands on all the pies. That was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
As Pennywise.
As Pennywise.
Yes.
That was true horror, is what it was.
He put a piece of paper up to cover it because it was so
He
off-putting.
was so scared.
Honestly, I don't even why they bothered to make it chapter 2, because Nick drew it, and all they had to do was put it slowly zooming in for 2.5 hours, and that would have been it.
Yep. It probably would have been just as good.
Oh man.
So yeah, as that's what I think environmentally wise keeps me motivated. Definitely for SkyPyre is not being a ULA, and the hope that that week you will be Employee of the Moth, and you will be caricaturized in all immortality on the whiteboard for a week.
I think for me, environmentally, the thing that I lends itself well to both creativity and motivation is it's just the presence of other people. It's a very strange thing. It's the presence of other people, or actually, you know what? It's the presence of other people, but more so, it's the implied purpose of an environment, if that makes sense.
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I have a very hard time, less so now because I have a neat gimmick. I have a standing desk, and when it's upright and I'm standing, it's work mode. If it's down low, it's play mode, right? So I've managed to do that at home to separate those two things, but it's very hard. I could never be somebody who works from home, because it's so hard to separate those things. It's the same reason when you go to the gym. For me, I use a gym membership and I go maybe once a week. And a lot of people would go, okay, well, that's not very much. Like, what's the point? Why don't you just work out at home? It's because it's really hard to motivate yourself and to start the discipline process to work at home, or to work out at home. Particularly because, I'm pretty good at art, or I'm pretty good at level design. I'm not good at working out. So it's really demotivating and hard to get into it when you're in your own home and you're like, your furniture is judging you. So if you get in the car and just go to a place where you've got literally nothing to do except do gym stuff, all of a sudden your mindset goes, well, I'm already here. And I think the same thing applies, like you've been talking about with our office, Dunkle Base, or when we go there, it's a place of work. It turns into a place of work. It was like for example, working at school, one of the things I prize most, and it's a thing I want to get back to, it's why we do this, is I would go into work pretty early. I'd go in for 8, not that early by my current standards, but earlier than everybody else showed up. but I would get in around 7:38, and I would work there for the day and everything. Everybody would come in. It's a place of work. You're working. You're motivated. You're there to do work. And then I could come home, and home was home. Home was for personal projects. Home was for playing games. Home was for relaxing, for eating, for watching a movie. It wasn't coming home and doing more work. So I really appreciated one thing about our program, that we had those labs, and I don't mind staying in the lab super late because I'm working super late. But when I come home, home is home.
Yes.
Same reason they tell you not to have a desk in your bedroom if you can help it. Tyson, I'm looking at you.
Too late.
Because you don't want to have work and sleep in the same place.
He
Otherwise,
doesn't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Sleep
don't have
is
much of a
work.
choice. You don't have much of a choice in your particular situation. Michael got the better end of that stick. He gets his own office.
I mean,
But-
Michael
Gets the
needs
bigger room.
his own office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But either way, I think that's for me one thing is separating environments based on what they're meant for.
that's a good point, and I think that's now aside from the fact that work and homework can just really sucks and no one wants to do it. I think that's also part of the reason why growing up you hate homework so much, because I don't think you hated school as much as you hated homework, even though you're doing the same stuff. I think it's
I
the
always tried to
fact.
do all my work at school
Well,
for that
exactly.
exact same reason.
No, but like at elementary, that wasn't an option, right? You were forced to. At the end of the day, here's all the stuff you have to do for tomorrow. At home. Like I think that's part. That might be part of the reason why everyone you talk to legitimately hated homework. Like, what was the worst part of school? Usually,
Homework.
a lot of times, it's homework because
That too.
Okay, yes, but that's another thing. But
That's a whole other. That's next month's podcast.
Yeah.
That's December's podcast.
but no, but you know what I mean. I think that
I
I
do know
think
what you mean,
I
yeah.
think this might be like a subconscious thing that everyone doesn't realize, is that all this homework that you've like the stuff that you've been doing all day, now you're like, okay, I'm done. Actually, now you're going home to your place and rest and being forced to do this thing that you don't want to, and you're being forced to do it at your place of rest. And until it's done, you do not get to enjoy yourself.
Or you just don't do it like I did.
Or you just don't do it. But then the next day, but
I'm gonna go ahead
That's
and
interesting.
interject right there in case anybody younger listens to this. Do your homework.
Yes, absolutely. No, do not listen to me. I'm a horrible piece of advice. There's a reason that all of SkyPyre has a university degree and I don't, and it's because I didn't do my homework. So, eat your vegetables, do your homework, don't do drugs, and do your
Tyson?
homework.
this has been a SkyPyre PSA.
Hey Tyson,
Yes.
just a saucy reminder. We have a diploma as well. We have two.
Okay, thanks.
Ooh, just kicking him right when he's down too. God.
That's okay. I do it to myself enough.
Well, that's true. That's true. But yes, I think as a whole, that's in general how we stay motivated and creative. And I hope that answered the question, which, by the way, came from one of our Discord community members. So thank you for that. Just a bit of a shameless plug. Join our Discord. You get to get a few videos early, and you get to ask us questions, and we'll answer them directly on the podcast. And they can be the actual topic of the month. So
And don't forget Extra Life too.
Extra Life is coming. November 2nd will be game day. That's in less than a month. So for sure, go check out Extra Life and search for SkyPyre. Donate to our page. We're raising money for children's hospitals. It's a great charity. It's a great event. And if you join us on our live stream day, you can donate and make us do ridiculous things.
And you
We will
can join
spin
our
the
team,
wheel.
too.
Hey, Nick?
For the kids.
I was saying you can join our team too.
That's right.
You don't need to be there on game day, but you can join the team. That way, it goes toward the total.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And if you donate, we spin a wheel of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wait, what are we calling the wheel? What was it called?
It's the Wheel of Pain.
It was the Wheel of Pain.
The Wheel of Pain?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still the Wheel of Pain. It'll be a new Wheel of Pain. We'll probably change up some of the activities, but it'll be a lot of
Pain.
No, it won't be fun. Why the hell would I say it's
No,
gonna be fun?
no.
It's
It
gonna be
depends
fun.
on who you're talking to. It'll be fun for the viewers. For us, it'll
Oh
just
yes,
be
that's
painful.
right. Michael liked the spicy noodles.
Oh yeah, he liked them.
Bring
That's
it
right.
in, it's like-
This year, the wheel will be spinnier, and the pain will be painier.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining us on in no particular order. This has been the October edition. We will be back in November. Thank you very much. We're live every the first Monday of every month on Twitch. It will also be back up on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Cool. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Also
watching
live
it,
on.
right?
It's also live on YouTube when you're watching the recording. Just pretend that you're listening to it live.
Yes.
You gotta
Everything
use
is in your mind. Use your creativity.
imagination.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.